Welcome to CREmedical's instructional video. In this video, I'll show you how to set up T-leads and T-interface 20 version 2.0 with an amplifier to record brain signals. This video has 6 parts. In part 1, I'll show you how to connect the T-leads T-interface in an amplifier. In parts 2 and 3, I will show you how to prepare and place T-leads without using a cap versus with using a cap. In part 4, I'll demonstrate how to properly view the brain signals recorded with the equipment. In part 5, I'll show you how to measure the impedance, and in part 6, I'll go over some important tips and tricks. But let's begin with part 1, connecting T-leads, T-interface, and an amplifier. First, turn the T-interface power switch on. The LED light will turn green. Then, connect the multicolor output cable to the T-interface. It is important to note that when using T-leads for recording, you still need to use conventional EEG electrodes, such as the disc electrodes, for ground and reference. This is because reference and isolated ground on your amplifier need disc electrode inputs, as shown here. Get 2 conventional disc electrodes, connect one electrode to the reference, and then connect the other to the ground on your amplifier. Because each T-lead provides 2 output signals, one T-EEG signal and one emulated EEG signal from the outer ring, known as the EEG, the output cable has 20 wires for T-EEG, 20 wires for EEG, and 10 wires for ground. However, you only need to plug in one ground wire as they are all connected internally. Identify these wires labeled ground or GND and plug them into the ground in your amplifier before plugging in the rest of them. Then plug in the remaining output wires into the amplifier channel by channel. In this demo, we are showing how to connect the wires into a Brain Products Brain Amp headbox. Make similar connections if you're using a different amplifier. If you're only interested in obtaining tripolar signals, not emulated EEG signals, do not plug in the output wires labeled as EEG. Part 2. Preparing and placing T-leads without using a cap. To use the T-leads without a cap, the conductive paste that we recommend is the 1020 paste. We use new prep as well to prepare the subject's scalp. First, place 2 conventional disc electrodes with paste on the subject's scalp. One as the reference and the other as the ground, as you normally do when recording EEG. This picture shows 2 conventional disc electrodes on the subject's scalp as ground and reference respectively. This is a connector on the T-lead. Plug the T-leads into the T-interface. Do not turn the top part of the connector, otherwise it may break. If you want to secure the connector, turn the bottom part clockwise. However, this step is not necessary. Again, prepare the subject's scalp as you normally would with new prep. It is important to apply a sufficient amount of paste to the T-lead. Typically, we apply 2 to 3 millimeters thick of the 1020 paste to the T-lead sensor. Press the T-lead sensor firmly onto the scalp, but not too firmly, or else you will eject the paste from under the sensor. Part 3. Preparing and placing T-leads using a cap. If you wish to record with a cap, the caps and cap holders manufactured by EasyCap, shown here, are compatible with the T-leads. Make sure that you place the ground electrode and the reference electrode on the subject as you normally would with 1020 paste before putting on the cap. If you use T-leads with a cap, the conductive paste that we recommend is the TD246 skin resistance, skin conductance electrode paste. Please note the difference in our choice of paste compared to when not using a cap. We use new prep to prepare the subject's scalp as usual. Make sure to apply a sufficient amount of TD246 paste both onto the T-lead itself and through the cap holders onto the subject's scalp. Snap the T-lead into the cap holder. Part 4. Reviewing signals. In this section, I'll show you how to properly view the signals recorded. For each pair of signals, the top trace is the t-EEG, and the bottom trace is the emulated EEG, also known as the e-EEG. You must set the sensitivity of the t-EEG signal to 10 times that of the emulated EEG signals. This is because the t-EEG signals are amplified by the T interface approximately 10 times that of the emulated EEG signals. Failing to adjust the t-EEG sensitivity will make the t-EEG signals appear much larger than the emulated EEG signals on the display. First, let's review the signals recorded without a cap. We typically record with a 60 Hz notch filter. Here you can see clear signals with the prominent alpha oscillations exhibited when the subject's eyes were closed. Here's an example of the signals recorded using a cap. Again, you can see clear signals with prominent alpha oscillations exhibited when the subject's eyes were closed. Part 5. Measuring impedance. For the best quality results, you need to keep the impedance below 10 kiloohms. You cannot directly use your amplifier's built-in impedance measuring functionality to measure the impedances of the T-lead sensor. In this section, I'll show you how to measure T-lead sensor impedance with an impedance jack, shown here. First, unplug the output cable from the T interface to avoid its potential interference with the measured impedance. Second, connect the T-lead connector with the impedance jack. Each of the colored wires coming out of the impedance jack corresponds to an electrode element of the T-lead sensor. Plug the impedance jack wire that corresponds to the electrode element that you want to measure into channel 1 of your amplifier. In order to get an accurate result, we recommend measuring the impedance of electrodes one element at a time. The white wire corresponds to the outer ring. The black wire corresponds to the middle ring. And the red wire corresponds to the center disc. Part 6. Important tips. In this last section, I want to summarize some important tips on how to use and care for the equipment. First, you need to set the sensitivity on the t-EEG signals to be about 10 times that of the emulated EEG signals in order to properly visualize the results. Second, make sure that you have enough paste under the sensor. Also make sure that the ground or reference electrodes are properly placed, and be sure to keep the impedance of all electrodes below 10 kiloohms. While in use, make sure that the T interface is not connected to the battery charger. Keep this equipment away from all other power outlets. If you still experience AC mains noise, unplug the output wire that is labeled ground from your amplifier and instead plug it into the reference on your amplifier. Additionally, if you record from the T-leads without using a cap, we recommend the 1020 paste. If you record from T-leads with a cap on, make sure that you use the TD246 paste instead. Lastly, remember to wipe the paste from the sensor and wash it in cold or room temperature water immediately after each use. This concludes our video. Thank you for watching, and feel free to visit our website, www.CREmedical.com, or email us at info@CREmedical.com.